Hello everyone and welcome to Adobe Max 2023. Thank you so much for joining the Adobe Live First Take series. My name is Alex Hogue and I am a filmmaker based in Bend, Oregon. And I'm going to be your host for the next 60 minutes. Before we get started, be sure to hit the subscribe button on YouTube at Adobe Live and also follow on Instagram over at Adobe Live to keep up with all the updates happening in the community. So, today we're talking video editing with a very special guest, and she is a multi-talented Emmy award-winning visual storyteller with a huge list of accolades. Welcome, Deanna Hong. How are you doing?
Doing well, thanks Alex. Thanks for having me.
Excellent. Well, why don't you go ahead and let's jump in, and for those people watching, tell us a little bit about your background and how you got into film.
So, that's an interesting question. I essentially used to, as a middle schooler, high schooler, film my lacrosse team, and then after that, just got into video editing. I had my first internship doing for ballet studios in high school. Then went to college, did all of my internships in video production, and it always had seemed just like this fun hobby, but not necessarily an actual career path to me. But yeah, after college, I just kind of kept taking jobs here and there, and eventually here I am now, still doing this for fun and for work. So
Excellent. Would you change anything on that path? How's that been?
I don't think so, actually.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think it's been good.
And what are we going to be talking about here today?
So today I'm going to be demoing some of the newer features available in Adobe Premiere. So we have text-based editing, which is super exciting. I do a lot of documentary work, which is a ton of text and interviews, and so having text-based editing has really been a lifesaver in terms of getting able to quickly assemble rough cuts and being able to sort through footage, find things you're looking for effectively or efficiently and quickly. And then the other thing was that we're going to look at Frame.io integration into Premiere, which is honestly has revolutionized the way that I collaborate and get feedback from clients and do my whole notes process.
Absolutely. Frame.io is essential, especially with that client workflow and just getting that feedback and the way that interacts. I'm really excited to get into it, but first I have a really serious question to ask you.
Okay.
Coming from the chat, we have to know, what are the sleeves on the back of your laptop here?
So these
They want them. The crowd wants them.
Yeah, I don't have a link, but they're on Amazon for sure. I don't know if I'm able to plug anything on this, but I think you can literally look up laptop sleeves, and yeah, I used to actually command strip my hard drives.
Oh, okay.
But I had a few too many accidents with that, so I got these, and these have been very secure since. So
excellent. So is that the pro travel tip for?
Yeah, I mean, I was a team videographer for a sports team for 8 years, so it was a lot of sitting in locker rooms, editing on planes, constantly running around. So yeah, I've always liked being able to have my hard drives, attached to my computer, fewer things I'm juggling.
Sense. So nothing's coming unplugged, right? Because that's worst case scenario.
Like having drives dangling and So
excellent.
This has been a great fix for me.
Cool. Well, I do want to say, anyone in the chat that's watching, we have a ton of people. Too many to name, honestly. We got Robert, Wade, Umacorn, just a whole bunch of people joining in. Be sure, as we're following along, put your questions in the chat, and we will do our best to answer those along the way. With that, I guess we can go ahead and jump into it, and I'll pass it off to you and dive in.
Okay. So I did just come back from Gymnastics World Championships in Antwerp, Belgium yesterday. So I'm a little jet lagged. But while I was there, I thought this would be a good way to demo text-based editing. I was working for a client, which is a podcast called Gymcastic, and basically the way World Championships works is that I was there for 2 weeks. We have multiple opportunities to interview gymnasts, and so what we've tried doing, I've worked with Gymcastic for the past few World Championships, and what we like to do is have a few rapid fire questions, 3 to 4 rapid fire questions that we kind of tack on to the end of all of our interviews so that we can make a cute montage at the end that is a bunch of international gymnasts representing a bunch of different countries answering these same questions.
That's incredible. What a great opportunity. And you're just getting back, so this is fresh.
This is fresh. I didn't even have to prep a hard drive. I just literally prepped my hard drive.
Oh.
So yeah, I was going to because of the process of bringing in, I think we probably did over 80-ish interviews. I actually have no idea, but
wow.
That sounds right. So in order to make these montages, a lot of them are also, those rapid fire questions are embedded within a greater 5-minute interview that's more like athlete tailored. So when I want to compile these montages together, I want to be able to quickly find, hey, where's the part of the montage where we ask this specific question, and then that way I can quickly assemble a rough cut with all of those answers across the board.
And are you working off of a script, or like did you pre-produce this, or did you just go out there, ask these questions, and you're going to kind of after the fact look at what you're looking to capture?
Yeah, we actually did not, like the extent of the pre-production was planning what questions they were going to be. Mm-hmm. We definitely got some unexpected answers. One of my favorite questions that we asked was, what is your most embarrassing moment as a gymnast, or your most embarrassing gymnastics moment? We got some fun answers to that, so that's available on YouTube if you want to look at the results of that. But I'm going to take you through the workflow of how I organized all those interviews, using text-based editing to just make that workflow more smooth and
perfect. Excellent. And the fact that you just shot all this and we're diving in, this is excellent. Thanks so much for sharing this brand new content.
This is all fresh footage.
In Belgium, you said, yeah?
From Belgium.
Very cool.
Live from Belgium. Not live, just kidding. But okay.
Semi-live.
So I'm going to go through the import panel here in Premiere. And this is my hard drive that I was working off of for Worlds. So I'm just going to navigate my footage folder. And then I know that the majority of the interviews we did were on these 2 days. So I'm going to just open this up, and luckily here we have these thumbnails, so I know all the interviews are always at the end. So the way Gymnastics Worlds works, some of these in. I actually had a bin already made in Premiere. I'm not going to put them in a new sequence, but I will have them automatically transcribe. And so I'm going to import these. I'm just going to drop these in here. So actually, if I have this folder selected when I import, then it'll put them right in there. And so this folder, or this file here, I actually did separately because this one is in Italian.
In Italian?
In Italian. So
okay.
This is an Italian
Italian?
gymnast. I don't speak Italian, but
I heard you speak a couple languages, though.
I do speak a couple of languages. Okay. Not Italian.
Okay.
But yeah, so this one, this has actually been kind of game-changing for us in the past few years with Premiere. Like, obviously having transcription in Premiere has been great, but being able to transcribe in different languages has been amazing because at these international meets, we're able to prepare questions in Italian. We can show them to the gymnast.
Yeah.
They can answer in their native language, and then I just transcribe it using Premiere, and then I use Google Translate or an online translator to translate their responses back if it's a language I don't understand. Mm-hmm. And generally, I can get a good enough idea of their meaning to make English captions.
Awesome.
After that.
Yeah.
So I brought in one Italian clip, not that one.
As we're bringing this in, a question from the chat, what is your favorite feature of Premiere Pro?
Ooh, that's
a tough one.
That's broad.
It's very broad.
That's
so
super broad.
In the chat, if we can narrow that down a little bit, but
I mean, I will
what's
say.
What's your favorite feature just in this moment,
in this
with this
moment,
project?
it's the auto transcription for sure.
I'm gonna say it's gonna save some time.
And text-based editing.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just kind of brought these clips in just to show the import workflow, and if you open up your text window here, you actually see, so I'm just going to double click this one. This is an interview with Ethora Thorzatir of the Netherlands. She actually speaks brilliant English, so this whole interview
that makes it easier.
Is in English. And I'm going to okay. So basically I made some sequences here. I knew that our 4 quick fire or rapid fire questions were: who's your favorite gymnast to watch here at World Championships? What is your most embarrassing gymnastics moment? What's your favorite thing about being a gymnast? And then we also asked them to do a dance, any dance of their choice. And so
you need to go through and find those
keywords, basically. Yeah.
And what would you do in the past?
In the past,
I would look like?
String out all of the interviews, and I would literally just speed through all of them until I got to that part of the answer, and then I would start dividing them into their own select sequences.
Okay. So this is the new way.
This is the new way.
Excellent.
So sorry, this interview with Ethora. So since I know one of the questions is favorite gymnast to watch, I'm just going to put in the word favorite. And you can see our interviewer said, rapid fire question number 1, your favorite gymnast to watch here. So her answer starts here. And you can see this is kind of the thing is the transcription's like, I would say 90% correct, obviously. But so I'm kind of basing it off of conjecture, like, okay, this seems to be the next question. So if I just select the part that I know is her answer, and I put it in the, favorite gymnast to watch. Okay, hold on. I have this sequence active, and then I have the video. I'm going to go back to favorite gymnast to watch.
And then for those watching, really quick, could you tell us again, just in case anyone missed it, like how did you get to this text transcription window?
I opened, if you go to window here and text, that's how you would access this. I have it shortcutted to Shift 7, so that's how I popped it open.
Excellent.
And then I just hit the comma button, which is insert, and that inserted it right into the timeline that I had selected. So
easy.
That's how I got my favorite gymnast to watch one. And the thing that I actually really like that is relatively new in Premiere is that before you could only transcribe a sequence, and as you edited that sequence, it wouldn't reflect those edits because it was based on the timing of your sequence. But now it actually transcribes your individual source clips. So if I add another clip, so let's say this one, let's see.
So before, I think it was called like a static transcript, and now it's auto-updating every time you bring something on based
now
on
it's a
your source
text-based
clip,
editing
though. Exactly.
transcript.
Perfect.
Okay, this one I can't obviously see what.
Question coming in from Misty. Do you ever shoot any water polo outside?
I don't shoot any water polo.
Okay, well the follow-up question to that was how do you deal with the sun bouncing off of water? I don't know if you've ever had any instance of that before, just in any of your sports, but...
Gymnastics is notoriously an indoor sport, so I have actually shot beach volleyball, but that also doesn't have water, so I don't know how to...
Well, let me give you a follow-up question to that, just for fun, just from me, is what is the biggest challenge with shooting gymnastics, in your opinion, from the expert?
I think what I've heard from a lot of people, but I also think it's applicable across sports, is gymnasts move very fast, obviously. But
Much
the thing
faster
is,
than me.
and especially if you have like someone like Simone Biles. I remember actually just at Worlds, she just debuted this new incredible vault, a Yurchenko double pike. It's like huge. She gets so much air on it, and you have at World Championships a lot of like international press that hasn't necessarily covered gymnastics before.
Yep.
And I could hear when she was doing that, I heard this camera guy next to me from some other publication go, shoot, I cut her off. So she just flew out of his frame because he didn't know how to anticipate what her movement was going to be. So I think for gymnastics, I think any sport has kind of its rhythm that you can start to develop a sensibility for. But I think for gymnastics, definitely a hard thing is how quickly and dynamically they move. However, it's very predictable because they all move within a contained space, and they have routines set that they do over and over again the same way.
Right.
Whereas like I tried soccer once, and that was a nightmare because I was just like, you can't control where the ball is going to go.
Yeah,
you
like
have no
it's
idea.
different with every sport.
Yeah.
And I've shot some surfing and stuff, and it's like very similar because you don't know which wave they're going to get up on, and in that sense you know where they're going to be. But yeah, same with motorsports, everything. I do a lot of sports too, and same interactions there. But that's great to know from the inside.
Do you have an answer then to how you deal with water reflection if you've done surfing?
Try to avoid it. Maybe a polarizing filter might be helpful. But
that makes sense.
Yeah, I don't have a great answer to that. That's a tough one. I haven't really shot a ton of water sports other than surfing, and I would say probably a polarizing filter would be the best bet.
Nice.
Cut some of those UV lights. Let's go ahead and jump back into the transcript here with the interviews.
Yeah.
And for anyone just tuning in, we're here with Deanna, and she is an Emmy award-winning visual storyteller. And just go check out her Instagram and her website. She's done a ton of stuff. Absolutely very impressive. And we are talking about the footage that she just shot in Belgium, literally like yesterday. So we're getting the first peek at this and how she would go through her interview process and break it down for really quick cuts.
Yes, so back to our text-based editing. Here's an interview with a Norwegian gymnast, also speaks great English. And I can kind of see through browsing, I searched the word favorite here to find her answer to who's your favorite gymnast to watch here. I've selected the part where she answers. Unsurprisingly, it's Simone Biles. And I'm just going to, once I have it selected in my text-based editing text panel, I'm just going to hit comma, and that adds it to my transcript or my sequence here. So this is just going to continue to grow while I add various athletes in. I have basically a second version of this project already built with more media brought in already. So these have already been transcribed because obviously Premiere takes a little bit of time to get all the transcripts going. So yeah, you can kind of see here let me close the other one so we're not getting double assets. Okay, so this is...
How much time would you say this has saved you, this new text editing feature?
I would say a lot, and I would say text editing, or text-based editing, I do a lot of documentary work, and there it's really invaluable, especially when you're looking for a certain bite, or you're looking for, something related to XYZ subject matter. One thing that's really, really helpful for is, in documentary, is sometimes you just need one word, like to connect a sentence right, or maybe they mumbled the word and it's not very clear, so you just need to take it from somewhere else. And so it's been a lifesaver to, instead of trying to watch the interview and be like, does she say then somewhere with the right intonation, you can just look for the word then, and you just listen to all of the thens throughout the whole interview and see if any of them work for the spot that you need.
So it's literally that live document, like even on Google Docs, just Control F and search for that word, and there you go. You don't have to scrub through all the footage.
But it's taken away so much of the back and forth because, you used to have if you got it transcribed, you'd have a Google Doc with the transcription, and then you'd have to try to match up the time code and figure out where it is. And so text-based editing has really been like a lifesaver in terms of being able to quickly track down exactly the words that you need and then get them into your sequence. Here I have a sequence where I brought in a few different clips from different gymnasts. And the cool thing about text-based editing is if you move these clips around, your transcript actually updates because the transcription is linked to the source clip rather than the sequence itself. So I can just shuffle all these things around, and you can see on the left here that it's all updating in real time.
Next level. It's been amazing since they've introduced this in here, and I love that feature.
And I will say, just because a lot of people ask me about this feature, about how I'm moving clips around, if you hold down Command and Option at the same time, then you can swap clips in the timeline. Some people don't know that exists.
Okay, that's a good one. Say that one more time.
If you hold down Command and Option while you drag clips around, then it'll swap the order of the clips in the timeline.
Interesting. You know what? I've been editing for so long, and I actually didn't know that one. So you just taught me something.
I'm glad.
Yeah, that's great. I have a bunch, but I know everyone here typically loves any insider secrets on shortcuts and everything. Do you have any others?
I have a ton, actually. I think shortcuts are... So my main thing with shortcuts is that I map all of my shortcuts to my left hand because I use a mouse. And so I like to take my hand off the mouse as little as possible. I have... Let's see. I don't know.
We can just go through it as we go.
Yeah,
too.
I'll see if anything else comes up.
There's something that comes to mind and you're like, this is... Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard to put you on the spot like that.
Yeah, no, I literally I'm actually very passionate about my shortcuts, so I love talking about them, but I'm just trying to think about stuff that's in the moment helpful for this workflow. Okay, so I was gonna say here, this is the clip that I had told Premiere to transcribe as Italian.
Okay.
And so here you can actually see the transcription is in Italian. I unfortunately don't understand Italian.
I know, it's gonna take a while to learn.
Yeah, what I would really do, that's my email, is I just throw stuff into Google Translate, and hopefully this gives you a pretty decent, okay, hold on, I forgot. When you copy this, you have to double click, and then I'm trying to see. That doesn't make that much sense, but I'm assuming racetrack probably means gymnastics floor, maybe?
It's pretty close, right?
Competition floor? I don't know. I'll have to ask him for that.
Sure to get it checked and approved before we ship it off.
Yeah. And there's another, let's see, there's another girl here who speaks Spanish, so I also have her transcription here. So I've actually been pretty impressed with Premiere's, it seems to do a pretty good job, because the question is, what's your favorite thing about doing gymnastics? And this answer apparently seems to be, well, it's a risky sport and the adrenaline is at its peak. That gives a lot of emotion. That seems like a valid answer to the question.
Yeah.
And this has helped us a lot with being able to make content that really, in previous years, we had to prioritize athletes who could speak English with us, and this has allowed us to be a lot more inclusive.
Yeah.
And be able to include athletes who don't speak English or prefer, like this athlete actually does speak English, but she prefers to speak Spanish.
Right,
so,
and especially if it's, a native language or something like that. I love that because that brings that kind of like element of like a worldwide community. Like you said, you typically, maybe would focus on someone shooting English. Like now it opens it up.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I never even thought that was a side effect of text-based editing. That's
the
great.
The options that Adobe, like the language packs that Adobe has available, there's like so many of them now. We've used it for like Japanese, Chinese, Korean, all sorts of different languages, and that's enabled us to incorporate so many more international gymnasts into these montages, which I think actually just really makes it a cool collection of varied international gymnasts from all across the competition. And so that's been a really cool part of how Adobe has enabled us to make more inclusive content, more international content, and
quicker.
And quicker.
You don't have to send it off and get it transcribed. You can get a cut much quicker now.
Right. No, we used to legit send it to like a Russian speaker and wait for them to transcribe it and send it back, which could take hours.
Right.
And so now being able to do this all in Premiere, plus with the help of Google Translate, has been life-changing and has allowed us to boost the quality of content that we're able to make. In a really high speed environment such as World Championships, where we're trying to constantly turn around a bunch of content.
Yeah.
So that's been a really cool.
Well, it's so great you led into that, because one of the questions from the chat was how your clients benefit from this feature, because it takes a few hours to produce, and I think you just answered that.
Yeah, I think definitely one is obviously the speed, because the process before of having to send it out for a transcript, and then you have a paper transcript that you're trying to like cross-reference with your video, you're trying to check time codes, like even that takes more time. So being able to just have your transcript here that you can manipulate, and you can even, like for example here.
Yeah, go ahead and dive into everything you're doing here.
I can like actually cut. So say I'm like, okay, her answer here is too long. I just want her to use this. The question is, what's your favorite thing about being a gymnast? She's probably getting to use your body in every way possible, and I love the technical side of it more than anything, blah, blah, blah. I think she actually says, so that's why bars is my favorite, just from my memory. But say I'm like, okay, this montage is actually supposed to be like an Instagram reel, so I need to keep it short, so I only want half of her answer. So actually, I'm like, I just want to use that first sentence. If I just delete this part out, it actually you can see, I'll just do it one more time. I delete it from the transcript here, but you can see that in real time, it's just deleting it from the sequence.
And you're not even touching the timeline.
Yeah, so it's truly, and I think I can also like move this around. Can I do that? Yeah. So I'm actually now you have a little issues with like the little timing here that I didn't get every bit of the clip. But essentially, this is the use case for it.
You have the essentials there.
To really rearrange your rough cut and be able to, and because I think for me what was hard is like when you'd have 40 clips here that look like this, you have no way of knowing which clip is the thing you're looking for, and so that's been a really great part about being able to visually see, okay, if I remember where that bite is about, feeling so much adrenaline is and stuff like that, being able to easily search for it and being able to have a visual reference to your timeline has been really helpful for me.
Excellent. So what else do we got here?
I don't know if like there's anything more in this that we'd want to look at, but essentially you can see these have all been pre-transcribed on import to Premiere, which I did through the import panel, and as you select your clips here that you'd like to import, you just turn on this automatic transcription
okay.
like checkbox thing.
Yep.
You choose what language it is. The reason why I kind of batched mine separately is because I knew a few of the interviews were in different languages. And that's kind of the workflow for that. And then the next thing I wanted to go over was actually one of my favorite things that has come to Premiere in the last few years, which is its integration with Frame.io.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
which has been, I think for a lot of video editors and creators has been really invaluable in speeding up and really like simplifying the feedback process. Mm-hmm. Because let me just open up another project while we talk.
Yeah, and I opened Pandora's box here by asking you your favorite shortcuts, and we do have some people in the chat asking what are your 5 most necessary shortcuts.
Okay.
And I think Control S is ruled out because saving is just the common one all the time.
Yeah. Did someone suggest that?
No, that's definitely one of mine. I mean, that's a necessity, but I think everyone knows that. So we want to know, like, what are your special ones?
Save is like second nature to me. Like, I'm trying to think of some rare ones that aren't automatically assigned in Premiere. And actually, my favorite thing is basically once I use some sort of function in Premiere more than like 3 times, I'm just gonna make a shortcut for this.
Love that.
So.
And how do you go about doing that?
I go into, Command Option K is your keyboard shortcuts, and then I literally just type in whatever the thing was. So if there's something that you can access by right-clicking a clip and, like, say, for example, I think I already have all these things shortcutted pretty much. But okay, set to frame size.
Yep.
I use a lot.
Same.
And so I actually added a shortcut for that, which if you search for any of the commands in here, you can just assign a shortcut to anything. Sometimes I actually just look at this and I'm like, what are the different things that are possible to do in Premiere? And then I just add shortcuts to random things that I'm like, oh, that sounds useful.
Yeah.
So
you find different ones. Set to frame size is one I use all the time. What's the command you use for that one?
I do Option Shift S.
Option Shift S.
Yeah.
Okay, I like that.
Because a lot of mine's, like, as I said, everything is mapped to my left hand, so I kind of end up doubling up on a lot of things, and I have to do a lot of like weird key combinations.
Yeah.
Another one I use a lot is replace with clip from bin.
Ooh, yep.
Which I'm trying to think of how that would be useful right now because I use it a ton. But a lot of times, especially for Worlds, we were doing, like, literally we just had to post pure interviews a lot of times. Mm-hmm. And so I had basically a template with the interview with, like, our bug on it, and the audio tracks, like, mixer was already set and everything. And so I would just duplicate the sequence and then select the old clip, select the new clip in the project panel, and then replace with clip from bin, which I have mapped to Shift B. I use that literally all the time.
Do you ever do like close gap?
Close gap, I have Alt G.
That's another one coming through on the chat.
Alt G for close gap. I'm trying to think what else I have.
It's okay. So let's talk about.
We can switch over to Frame.io.
Yeah, and like, what have we done so far? So walk us through it real quick.
Yeah, so far what we've done is we brought in media so what we were doing for this was a bunch of interviews that I shot at World Championships. I was needing to pull individual clips from each interview in order to make these montages because we asked a variety of common questions to each athlete. And so now, obviously, we just kind of started this process, but I was going interview to interview and using the text-based editing transcript to identify which part of the clip we need and then easily just throw them into my timeline, move them around as necessary using the text panel. And yeah.
Let me ask you a question. So in my documentary work in the past, I would, before this existed, I would put literally, maybe it's an hour-long interview, and I would put markers on the timeline and literally type out what's said.
Yes.
Did you used to do that?
I did sometimes, but I mostly would use markers on the timeline to kind of make a group of topics. So it's like, so actually I'll open up my other project now. Let's see, because this other project we're going to dive into is a documentary I've been editing about British gymnast Becky Downey, who's a good friend of mine. Sorry, I think my headset's kind of falling down, so I'm just trying to...
We'll get someone up here to help out with that. Technical difficulties when things fall down.
Okay.
Stand by for that. For everyone watching in the chat, we're hanging out with Deanna Hong. She is a Emmy award-winning visual storyteller.
Thank
you. She's done a ton of cool stuff, and including getting a mic back on. So I think we're ready to rock. Yeah, we're good? Awesome. Let's dive back in. Look at that timeline.
Look at this rainbow wheel of
death. Is this a finished project? Where are we at in this project?
This specific timeline is a half-hour documentary that is finished. I'm trying to close the text panel because I think that is slowing us down. Because this one I actually edited before text-based editing was a feature.
Okay, and it looks pretty hefty, so it might take a minute to load everything here.
Yeah, this is a slimmed down version of this. I pulled this sequence out of
True editor.
The original.
Yes, love it.
Just trying to make this a little snappier, but I don't think it worked. But as you were saying, I do use the chapter markers on my timeline to kind of delineate different parts of my sequence. This one is called Old because she's talking about being an older gymnast in the sport of gymnastics. I think it's kind of mean that I just called it old, but that's fine.
So yeah, did you ever use it on the source clip though, like when you were reviewing it?
I did. I don't know if I did in this one. Let me check my source clips. You can see here I do have some notes on my source clips here. Like here she falls while training. This is actually my DP who helped me kind of AE some of this stuff. Went through and put some notes on. Shout out to my friend Lily if you're watching. I don't think you are because it's late in Germany. But so she went through and made some notes, which you can see on the clips. We have some notes here like heavy breathing, etc. So, but in terms of interview, I definitely did. But my process for this project was that I literally just listened down to every interview, which you would do, and you would add the markers on. But I actually just divided them up into timelines as I was going, rather than label them and then later divide them up. Because I was like, I think we did 6 to 8 interviews for this documentary, and so I just already made a select timeline of everybody talking about Becky as a young gymnast, everybody talking about Becky competing at English championships. Yeah. And so that way I could kind of, I guess, make that process a little faster than labeling, and then later I was going to put them in a select timeline anyway. So, but I did used to do that, yes, sometimes.
Yeah, no, that was just, it just goes to show, how far text-based editing has come even in recent months, but also just the way it's changing how we edit documentary-style content. And other content as well, but I definitely use it the most for interviews and documentary and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So why don't you go ahead and show us, I guess you said we were going to talk about Frame.io. Is that the next step?
Yes. So Frame.io has been indispensable for me in order to get feedback from clients. Also, in this case that I'm about to show, I actually kind of used it for myself because this first episode is about 30 minutes, or it's like 27 minutes long. And so when I'm editing, I'm actually really, really bad at watching my stuff back. Like I hate going back and watching stuff down. So once I actually assembled it all into like a 27-minute thing, I put it in a frame, and that was like, okay, you're gonna sit here and you're gonna watch this down, and this way you can write down anything that occurs to you in the moment that you're like, hey, I need to take a closer look at this, or this transition isn't working well, or whatever.
I like that.
So let's see, this one, I'm trying to remember what I did.
I like that mentality of kind of just using it for yourself in that manner.
Yeah, you can see here, I'm going to open up.
And now Frame is integrated into Premiere for
Yes.
at least, I think, a good year or so now.
Yeah, so if anyone didn't see, I believe I opened it by going to Window and then Review with Frame.io, which opens up the Frame.io panel.
And Frame.io is kind of like, in my opinion, it's like the ultimate way to review the footage. And just put notes on it as well and share it. And that is included in the subscription for Creative Cloud, which is awesome. You get some space with that.
And it's amazing because it's like specific to the exact frame. Because I feel like sometimes clients will give you notes and they're like, oh, at 3:33, but you're like, this is kind of the middle of the cut, and like this note could apply to either of these two shots. I don't know what one you're talking about.
Yep.
So that's been really good with Frame.io, is that you can specifically get to to see exactly what they meant, what they intended with this note. There's no ambiguity.
Yes, that is the best part of it, in my opinion. Aside from many other things, but just being able to click and see exactly where they're talking about.
Yeah.
Or having someone circle something.
Yeah, they can annotate things on like a little screenshot. Okay, so this is a version of this cut that you can see here, I left a ton of notes for myself. So basically, I watched it down and was like, here's everything that bothers me about this cut. And it was a lot of things. If you open up the little comment bubble here, you can actually see all of the notes that are there, and they're for myself, so they're very short. They're just like, keep this lower third up for longer, caption this part, warp stabilize this shot, check lip flap, refont. I don't know. Oh, I guess I must have wanted to font someone again.
And is that this timeline we're looking at?
That is this timeline here. So I'm gonna close I'm gonna open this, sorry. So this is, the timeline that I have open right now is V1 of this asset in Frame. Frame has obviously the ability to version cuts so that you can like drop an old cut on top of another one. So this specific timeline is for V1 of the full episode. So that's why I went here to get to that correct version 1 of the full episode. And again, you can see all of those same things here. And so I have this linked, which will link my Frame.io playback to this actual my timeline.
And this is like, in my opinion, like super important, like
Yeah.
how you link it and what that does exactly, so you can actually play it there and see it on your timeline.
Yeah, so if I click, is it working? Hold on. Oh wait, maybe okay. Let me just re-link it.
Sometimes I
There we
need to
go.
like unrelink.
Yeah, I think it might have
Then
been linked to
relink.
another asset, blah, blah, blah. So now it should work that if I click around on any of my notes,
Yeah,
like,
you can see it now on the
updating in both.
timeline, which is awesome.
So here, my note was caption, and I think if you watch this, she's gonna say something, but it's like kind of hard to hear what it was. So let's just see. I wanted myself to add a caption here, so I'm gonna play it. I don't know if you guys can hear it. She's like mumbling to herself a little bit, so I was like, oh, just for, you know, being able to hear, for the sake of being able to hear, I just want to add a caption there. So these are just like little notes for myself as I watched down my final cut and was like,
Yeah.
okay, these are the little things I want to add. Let's see. This one was an interview. This is my friend Ellie Black, Canadian gymnast. I'm repping Canada today with this hat. But reframe all Ellie Black was that I think I'd wanted myself to like punch in a little bit more on all of her interview shots. So
Okay.
I probably like put that note throughout of like every shot with Ellie Black being like, remember to reframe this one, remember this, reframe this one.
Okay.
A lot of little technical things that I was like, just need to clean up a lot of these
Right.
things that I missed in when
Right.
I assembled it.
So you're kind of bouncing back and forth. We have almost two different views in frame here. It's like we can see the timeline like linearly and chronologically, the notes on there, but then there's also that other view you had up that kind of shows where you can kind of check mark things off and it's in a list format. So we have kind of both options, which is
Yeah, it would
pretty
be nice
sweet, too.
because as I address my cuts here, I can just check them off so I know what I've addressed already. And then one really cool thing about Frame, because I don't know if you've had this experience, I'm sure you have, where you get notes from a client, they're all time coded, but then as you're adjusting timing, you're cutting stuff out, then the time code notes don't line up anymore. You're trying to do math, being like, okay, this note was like 20 seconds before this because I cut out 5 seconds, blah, blah, blah. So this is a really nice thing about Frame.io is that you can actually pull in all of these comments as markers that will then move with your timeline as you make those edits. So I'm gonna do that. Just for the sake of keeping this clean and understandable, I'm gonna remove all the existing markers.
Okay.
My chapter markers that kind of help me orient myself in the timeline. So.
And so kind of along the lines of the question from the chat earlier, obviously you're not shooting water polo, but with gymnastics, I'm seeing some of this footage. And I think indoors lighting, especially under fluorescence and everything, brings upon its own challenges. What are some of the challenges that you face with lighting indoors? Or do you?
I think sometimes definitely some venues can be really dark and you're trying, to capture, I guess it's more of an issue with photography than videography because for gymnastics you have to shoot at a pretty high shutter speed with photography. Obviously with video you don't really change your shutter speed. But sometimes you have to like crank your ISO higher than you'd be comfortable if you're shooting in. Usually for World Championships you're in a pretty well lit arena because it's kind of like the best of the best venues.
A big stage.
Yeah, but when I shot college gymnastics, you go to different gyms or different schools with different resource levels for their women's gymnastics teams. So there's a real variety of lighting conditions that you're shooting in. So I think that would be a hard part. I also think just generally being a team videographer, you're like moving with the team a lot. So if you're coming, in and out of a locker room into the arena and then back into a hallway, and you're just dealing with a lot of changing lighting conditions.
You're not always just under the actual event. Like you're filming other things.
A lot of behind the scenes.
Well. Yeah.
I was going to delete all my markers from this sequence, and then sometimes
so now we're
sometimes
gonna take all those comments on there and just show how you can bring that in as markers on the timeline, right?
Yeah, sometimes I can get the markers to show up in the marker panel, and then sometimes I can't, so I'm just gonna do this way. I do think there's an easier way to do this.
Sometimes I think, I don't know if some...
Do you have that sometimes? Like literally this morning I tested it and I was like, great, they all show up in the marker panel, and then this time they didn't, so.
Yeah, it does happen occasionally. I think to get rid of them, sometimes I get it mixed up if it's Premiere or After Effects, but I know you can right click and like clear all markers on your timeline.
I could, but it like didn't work this. I probably could have tried it because it does have a clear markers thing, but then sometimes it doesn't work. I didn't try it this time, but maybe it would have worked. Anyway, so I cleared those markers. We're going to bring in, so as I said, the cool thing about Frame.io is that you can bring in your comments as markers that are synced to the time codes that they were left at. So,
but first, before you do that, you have to link do you have to link that?
The timeline.
Yeah, which we have right now.
Which we have done.
Yeah. but just for anyone watching, just make sure your timeline is linked. Otherwise, I don't even think it'll let you do it if it's not. I'm not sure.
I mean, we could try it if you want, just to see. But
or just make sure it's on the right timeline.
Yeah, because
that's probably the more important part.
Because you know, a lot of times you have V1, V6, V whatever. So just make sure you have the right timeline open and linked, especially because this particular sequence. Because the thing is, you can actually export through Frame.io, so that I think Frame will actually recognize that this is the timeline linked to this asset. In this case, I did my export and then I uploaded the export through the Frame.io browser rather than through the Premiere panel.
Right.
So here I just need to tell Frame.io in Premiere, hey, this is the sequence you're referring to. So yes, this is linked here. You can see when we click around, it should, nope.
Let's see if the Wi-Fi and everything's gonna load here.
Yeah. Hello.
Did you have any big highlights from your recent trip?
I really liked Antwerp. That was the city I was in Belgium. So that was cool. You could like bike around and, okay, is this working?
And what is the, I know this is a little bit different project, but from the footage you just shot, what is the like end deliverable of that?
At World Championships?
Mm-hmm.
It was mostly YouTube and social media content. Okay. Gymnastics fans are like, they have like a voracious appetite for all gymnastics content. So mostly we were just doing, this one was like a pretty, not as creatively intensive gig. It was a lot of just like I don't really understand this, but gymnastics fans like to watch training videos. And so we literally would shoot them training and then put that on YouTube, and like they'd get thousands of views and people just like watching the gymnast training. I don't really get it, but
it's the behind the scenes trend that's going on right now. I mean,
but I'm just like,
this
is the same routine they're going to do in a few days anyway. So I don't really know. That this is the same routine they did a few months ago. I'm not really sure.
Right.
I mean, I guess people are like, oh, she looks like her foot hurts or something like that. But anyways, that's mostly what I do at World Championships. And then we do interviews after every competition. So you can hear from the athletes like how their meet went, or you know how they're feeling. There's a lot. This particular Worlds was qualification for the Olympics, so there was a lot of emotions. There's some teams that just missed the Olympics by the skin of their teeth. There's teams that, you know, finally punched their ticket to the Olympics for the first time. I think Romania made the Olympics for the first time since like 2012 or something as a team. So yeah, a lot of good emotion stuff, and so all those interviews we put up. Anyways. Okay, back to this. We're gonna, as I've been saying, pull these markers in.
Back to frame, back to the markers.
Yeah. I'm gonna go import comments, and you can see they all populated here. And so if you mouse over any of them, you can see actually the text here. It says, the first part is like my name, or the name of whoever left this comment, which is me in this case, and the time code. And then the third line here is my actual comment. So mine were all pretty short because they were for myself, so I wasn't very descriptive. Like literally this one just says delete. So let's see what this is that I potentially wanted to delete.
While we're doing that, question from the chat is, what is your favorite mouse for Mac?
My favorite mouse for Mac?
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, this is actually, they have, Logitech has like a booth
right over there.
Yeah,
they're here at Adobe Max.
It's been popping. I've been like wanting to go over and like talk to them, but it's like busy every time I walk by.
Yep.
But this is the MX Master 3S, and yeah, I've been using this mouse in the previous version for the past few years. I love it. It feels amazing.
Same. I use the exact same one. I've been using it for years.
I literally like travel it with it everywhere. Like it's, and you can
customize the buttons and everything.
Customize buttons. You can like attach or like sync it to 3 different devices.
So on the bottom there, it's got.
I don't know. You probably can't see
that. That's the go-to. Editor's choice.
And if you're at Adobe Max, I saw that they have like a 30% off code for. So I'll tell you that too, because I was like, maybe I'm gonna get some new Logitech stuff while I'm here.
Adobe Max perks. We're here.
Okay, so here I'm just looking at this note I left for myself called delete. I'm not really sure what I wanted, like, to be fair, I'm not sure what I wanted to delete here, and we can't really hear my computer, so I'm not really sure what I'm referring to.
It's a little loud in here, but.
Yeah, it's a little, it's, you know, it's a vibe. But yeah, basically this is a really good way to see, okay, so this note here, if you mouse over it, it says L3 longer. So I'm pretty sure that to me meant I wanted this lower third up for longer. And if we watch it, which I'm gonna just make this a little bigger. If we watch it, that does seem pretty quick because there's 3 lines of text here. So another shortcut or tool that I like is is this called the slide tool? What is this one called? It's called the slide tool.
Slide tool, I think.
Yeah. Which is a U keyboard shortcut, and that, you know, pulls out your next
Another
clip.
shortcut for you guys.
Yeah, there you go. So you can change around the duration of anything while not having to like pull out the other clip to fill the space. So I just made this a little longer. That seems adequate to read that lower third. So these are the kind of notes that I'm leaving myself while I watch through.
And so this was your process of like kind of putting it to frame. You're sitting down reviewing it to the point where you can't just stop and like make edits, but
yeah, like how it comes
you
together all as one piece, because that's the viewer's experience, is they're going to sit down and watch the 30-minute thing all in once. So I wanted, especially transitioning from scene to scene, I wanted to feel like, does the pacing feel right here? Is some of my sound, am I losing some sound too fast? Or, you know, do I need to kind of massage some of these? I think there's some...
I also like kind of like the idea there too, that I might adopt this of like, when you feel like you're at a V1 or a V2, to actually export it and watch it somewhere else where you literally can't pause and like stop it.
Yeah.
That way you're able to, I have the tendency of like, I'll be watching something and I pause and I'm like, oh, I gotta go back and fix that, and then I gotta start all over again. And it's kind of like forces you to sit down and watch the entire thing all the way through and just get the pacing of everything.
I think for documentary that's really important because, it's meant to be, you know, it's not like a social media hype video, super fast cuts and everything. It's meant to be paced out. It's meant to, you know, you want to see if, hey, is this emotion building to the right place at the right time? Am I effectively, you know, communicating the emotion that I want to be communicating at this spot? And you can really see when you sit down to watch something like this on your own without seeing the cuts and seeing the timeline. You actually can just be present and be like, hey, okay, this is achieving what I wanted it to, or it's not, and then you can go back to the drawing board and be like, okay, this section of the timeline wasn't working very well. What can I do to try to like make this feel better?
Yeah.
I think here, this note says flicker, and this is actually interesting. This interview, this little screen in the corner is actually a TV.
Oh.
So when you play it, it's actually, let's see if it's doing it.
And we probably got another like 5 minutes or so.
Yeah. So it's actually flickering here. And I saw this while we were shooting. I was like, oh, the screen is flickering, but it looked weird when we turned it off. And so, I don't know, I guess since we have 5 minutes, I might as well show how I worked through that. Which is I basically went ahead and I copied this layer on top. And I am
is this raw footage?
This is, it's log footage from my camera.
Yeah, and for those asking in the chat about the color process, I don't know if we'll have time to go through the color correction process on this one, but definitely stay tuned for some of the other streams, which probably, I would assume we'll cover that. I don't know all of them. There's so much happening at a max here.
Yeah. But, I personally, I should have mentioned, this is a pre-color rough cut from a few versions ago. I don't have, I do have it back from my colorist, but that's conversation for another time.
Okay. And I got a couple other questions here when you're ready too. Yep.
Should I do this while we do questions?
Yeah, let's kind of, we can chat questions. I'll give you a couple more. I think we got enough time for a few more, and then we can just kind of do a quick recap, and I think that's all we got time for this time. So are you filming both portrait and landscape? I know you were talking about doing this for multiple platforms and everything. So do you only shoot portrait, or do you do landscape? What's your process there?
Like for social, you mean? Like being able to deliver for...
I think, in general, like when you're shooting, are you shooting both vertical and horizontal?
Usually if I know I need to deliver for social, I'll just shoot in 4K and then expand it and just kind of be aware that I'm going to be using that middle part vertically. I generally don't shoot with my camera sideways. I have on occasion, but a lot of my deliverables I need to be able to deliver both in 16:9 and 9:16. So, yeah.
And then another question here in the chat. Where can we find the video you made for World Championships?
It would be on the Gymcastic YouTube channel. We actually uploaded like 200 videos from World Championships, but the montages are on there, or on Gymcastic's Instagram. Gymcastic is GYMCASTIC, like gym podcast, Gymcastic.
Go check it out. Great work.
And just this quick thing I did really quick to solve that flickering is I just duplicated the layer, and then I put a frame hold on this top one so that she wasn't moving, and then I masked out that corner so that basically this corner is just not moving, but her interview is still moving. So now it shouldn't be distracting that frame is flickering.
Good
in
solve.
the background. So.
Good solve. So go ahead and give us just kind of the quick recap of everything we covered today and the new features.
Yes. So we did text-based editing, which is a great way to auto transcribe all the any clips with dialogue that you're bringing into Premiere, and then being able to visually manipulate it without just using the timeline. You can actually see your text manipulated that way. Also really helpful for captioning, helpful for editing in different languages. And then we also looked at Frame.io integration with Premiere, with a workflow with clients where you can get notes, or with clients or yourself in this case. I do also do this with clients, but you can see your notes linked to a timeline in Premiere, and you can see exactly where those notes apply to the cut that you already did, and then you can import them as markers that will move with your timeline as you delete things. So like, say for example, I cut out this whole section for some reason, like I didn't like that, but you can see, I'm gonna undo it, you can see all of the markers actually shifted, so there's no more wondering or like trying to do math of like, okay, I cut out 5 seconds earlier, now all of my time codes are 5 seconds off and I gotta figure out what note this applies to.
Well, thanks so much for sharing all of this great information. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you here at Adobe Max Live. Hope everyone goes and checks out Deanna's work. It's been great having you here, and stay tuned for another stream from Adobe Max. We'll see you guys later. Thank you.
Thanks, Alex.